Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time. Whatever. So, if that came over the microphone, I'm keeping it in.
I was about to say we're going to end this with an apology for me. I keep burping, and I think it's the Chardonnay.
Oh, I absolutely burped while you were talking, and I was like, we just
can't
cut
that out.
Yeah,
I
don't
did the
know.
same thing.
I'm not a good enough editor. Well, I didn't hear it, so maybe it'll work out. We're keeping all of this in. Hey, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome to Working Mom's Whine, where we drink a bottle of wine
and whine about our busy, crazy, overwhelming working mom lives. But we also try to find resources to help your lives and our lives.
Yep. And today we're going to whine about feeling attacked by personality tests.
Mm-hmm. Being victimized.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We should talk about the wine.
Okay, so we're sticking with our 19 crimes theme for now.
Yes.
Today.
Should we let them know that 19 Crimes chose to be too nice to Martha?
Yeah, so today we have Martha Shard. You have to have Martha right after you have Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. It's a must. Mm-hmm. You can see her little face. She's joined us today as a guest appearance. She just didn't know it.
Great your mom joke. You have to have Martha after you have Snoop, after you have your mom. Anyway, I'm mature. So on all of these, it usually talks about the crime that the person committed. And on Martha's Chardonnay, it just talks about how 19 Crimes tells the true story of heroes who beat the odds and overcame adversity to become folk heroes. And then it talks about Martha being an innovator and a self-made icon who built a domestic empire. And they're not wrong. She did do those things. But she did also commit a crime.
And go to prison.
So
if the bottles are about the crimes that people committed and learning about them, why is her crime not on the bottle?
Mm-hmm. So insider trading, in case you weren't already aware, she went to jail for insider trading. I do say this Chardonnay is quite nice.
It's good.
Yes, I like it.
I'm not typically a Chardonnay kind of gal, just because it feels a little tart to me, a little bite.
I usually don't like Chardonnay either, and I like this one.
Yeah, this one the bite is not as crazy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's
pretty good. Pretty good.
Good job, Martha.
Yay. And next time you do insider trading, let me know too. No. We'll cover that in our financial stability podcast.
Oh boy.
So first we thought we would tackle the Enneagram. I think I'm going to let you take the lead on a lot of this one because that's more your wheelhouse. I just know what I have gained through doing it at work already.
Yes. Why personality tests in general, but especially the Enneagram, are amazing. They help you get to know yourself at a deeper level. They do. True. And they really give you a place to look into your motivations, your core beliefs, and the things that might be instilled in you that you didn't even realize from when you were just a wee baby. So I love the Enneagram. One of my BFFs, Emily, introduced me to it and got me just super sucked into it. We went down a rabbit hole for a long time. I did write down some stuff to say about it from different descriptions of it, just so I make sure I get it all accurate and everything. Mm-hmm. I love the things I participate in, and I make sure I feel like they're great things and accurate things when I choose to do them, but then the reasons why just immediately leave my brain. I do not have space to hold all of that information for why I choose the hippy-dippy things I try and the supplements I take, and including why I love the Enneagram so much and how to describe it.
I have a little theory on that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, have you heard about like the neuroplasticity of change book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't read it, but I've heard about it.
Okay, same. And I would like to.
And I know a lot about neuroplasticity.
Yeah, so neuroplasticity in general, especially for those of you that aren't aware, is the fact that our brains are ever changing, new connections are always being made. And recently there's been a psychology that came out to kind of capitalize on that idea so that you can change habits, build new pathways in your brain, things like that. Mm-hmm.
That's what they're talking about when they say you can literally change your brain.
Exactly. And I watched this YouTube video, and they were talking about how it relates to memory and potentially dementia. So the
Are you about to tell me I'm going to have dementia?
No. And I'm about to tell you why you might not be able to remember things that you don't know why you can't remember them. And it's because we're constantly replacing the old memories with new ones, and we can't just keep everything. The axons or whatever that are physically making the connection, the more that it makes the connection to the cell that has the memory, or don't come at me, scientists. I'm just remembering what I remember from this video. But the more that you connect to that memory, the more you can hold on to it. But if it's not something that you access all the time, as new memories and new information come in, the old stuff gets pushed out.
Yeah.
So it could be the neuroplasticity in your brain that makes you not remember some of
It's
those.
dead.
No. It's just helping you remember different things. That was the point. Although I
like to catastrophize.
Well, but I'm sure we might be starving some brain cells. To be fair.
No.
But now that tangent's over.
Okay. Back to the topic. The Enneagram is a personality typing system made up of 9 personality types, which are each defined by a core belief about the world based on a person's inherent essence and childhood experience. The core belief is likely subconscious and contracted in a limited ego state, meaning it's comprised of your deepest motivations, fears, and the way that you interact with the world, which makes up how you perceive the world and the people around you. It's more than a personality type test. It's a deep dive into our behavioral patterns. It allows us to see ourselves with compassion and the acceptance that we've all been longing for, which could not be truer. When you take the test and you get your type and you start reading about your type and it makes sense, everything's like ding, 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 yeah, that's me, yep, that's me. Just even if it's not what you want to think about yourself is true, there's still a sense of relief to that. Like, there's a reason why I am the way I am. There's an explanation. It's expected based on my experiences and the way that I was raised and experienced the world as a young child. It makes sense. Yeah. So much sense that they can ask questions and type you down and be right. Yep. So there's just, for someone like me who's real checklisty and likes things to be predictable, there's just a real beauty in that. And I will say too, they say in the literature that your type doesn't change. And that's true, but that your understanding of yourself changes. And so maybe you take it when you're younger and you get one number, and you take it when you're older and you get a different one. And both times you really identified with each one. There's a lot of free tests out there. I use the one from Psychology Junkie when I recommend it to friends, that can give you your type. And then each type has a wing. So the numbers, 1 through 9 are the different types. And then your wing is the number on either side of your number. So I'm a 6, so I can have a wing 5 or a wing 7. And it's like one of them, there's also like a type that you can be when you're in your growth mode and you're growing and becoming better. And then there's one that you're in when you're in your stress, overwhelmed, bad mode. Mode. Yeah. So, there's lots of ifs, ands, or buts to it, and lots of deep ways you can dive into it further. There's also a tri-type test. Each of the numbers comes from a triad, so a set of 3, and one is head, one is heart, and one is gut. And when you get your tri-type, you get one number from each. And I think that's when I learned the most about myself. Yeah. I feel like most of my life I was a 2. I identified with being a 2, but it wasn't right about my motivation and core belief. I didn't believe that I needed to do things for others to earn love. I never identified with that statement because I was like, I know you don't earn love. You just give love, and people give love to you. You don't earn it through acts, but all I did was bend over backwards and give acts of service to other people. So I was a 2 in that way, but I was missing that core piece of what my real motivation behind doing those things was, which was for safety and security, which I identified being connected to being in a loving relationship, a marriage, a partnership. So as I got divorced and went to therapy, I really started discovering those things about myself, that it's always for me been about safety and security and predictability. And I have a lot of anxiety, like a lot. And that's very typical of a 6. So when I took the tri-type test, I got 269, which made so much sense to me because I debated between being a 2 and a 9 before. And then the 6's motivation, core belief is like security and being safe and secure. So it all came together.
I have a theory on that too. On
Yeah.
the tri-type thing. And
Okay.
my struggle with these things is, and it's not just with the Enneagram, I feel this way sometimes with other tests, although there are like Myers-Briggs, and there's one where there's like 6 different types you can be.
Okay.
Those are both like, yep, that's me, no. But some of the other ones I'm like, well, I could be this and this and this and this. So I was complaining to Nikki about that. I was like, the first time I tested as a 3, and then I tested as a 5, and I feel both of those, but I also feel like I could be a little bit of a 1 or a little bit of an 8. So I took the tri-type test, and it had 351, which made sense because 3 is the performer, and so it's all about achieving and wanting people to recognize you for your achievements and reveling in their applause. And then, of course, you can maybe get a little too self-promoty and vain. But when I took that test, there's a warning you can get if you are too inconsistent in your answers. And they saw that in me. And they said sometimes when you're too inconsistent in your answers, that means you are a 6. And I don't know if they included 9 because it can be related to 6, or if 9s can also do this. But it's just because the 6 can be hard to type because the 6 doesn't always understand themselves. Well, the more I read into the 3 is the chameleon kind of, where you're like trying to match yourself to the group around you, and you're a performer, so you're trying to put on a face for everyone else. And I got to thinking, I wonder if that's why I got the 6 warning, because as a 3, maybe I don't connect with some of these others as much as I think I do, but I want to connect to them because I want to be the performer that excels at everything. Mm-hmm. Just so weird. I mean, I'm not a psychologist at all. That could be totally off base. But
doesn't sound off base to me.
That was a shower thought I had on the drive home. But yeah, I'm a combination of 3, 5, and 1, and altogether they're like the technical expert. I hate being wrong. I want to be the expert in everything that I do. And if I'm in conversation with someone and it becomes obvious that I don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe I thought I knew what I was talking about and I was wrong, I get real uncomfortable real fast, real embarrassed. So that definitely makes sense for me.
So I was trying to look up the title of the 269 tri-type, because Amanda mentioned what hers was, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize it had a title. It's been so long since I read about that particular part. But when I was Googling it, there's a chick who has that and did a blog post about it. And at the top, it's got a picture of the live-action Cinderella, and it says, have courage and be kind, the 269 tri-type. And I was like, I'm Cinderella.
The Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan.
That sounds appropriate. The 269 tri-type is compassionate and agreeable. I call it the Cinderella tri-type since it's patiently long-suffering. If anybody knows my life, they know I am a patient long-suffering. Interesting. For the 269, life is all about getting along, pairing the avoidant nature of 6 and 9 with the helpfulness of the 2. This type has a unique motivation to soothe conflict and encourage acceptance and understanding in everyone they meet. Far from being a victim themselves, the 6 leads them to reserve trust for only their closest friends. But the 9 tempers this distrust with an almost universally non-judgmental disposition. In trying to always be nice, the 269 may sometimes fail to speak their own truth when it is needed.
That's not you at all.
Okay. I think I've just been shot in the chest.
To answer the earlier.
And if you love the Enneagram and figuring out yourself and learning more, there are amazing, wonderful podcasts and videos that explain each type. They break it all down. They talk about the wings. They'll do full episodes on each wing of each number, and it's great. And there's also a thing with arrows. I can't remember what that means.
That's the whole when you're in your positive, negative state,
Okay.
whether it's security or stress.
Yeah.
I only know because I recently read the book. But so like,
Excuse me.
if I was mainly a 5, for instance, as I thought when I was initially reading the book.
Yeah.
Although apparently I'm mainly a 3, which makes sense. In my crap, I don't remember which way they go now. I feel like it was in my healthy state, I would be a 7, and no, it's not 7. I have the book.
Yeah, grab the
I
book.
put it in the background. I do want to be. Well, let's see what 3 is, actually, now that I know I'm a 3. So 3 points to the 9 and a. I have to look this up.
Which one is for 6?
It's the stress and security arrows. So your stress number is a number your personality moves towards. So I move toward being a 9 when I'm stressed. You
Okay.
move toward being a 3. And when we're secure,
Interesting.
I move towards being a 6, and you move towards being a 9. But that means you take on the healthy aspects of that one and not the unhealthy aspects of that one. So
when I'm stressed out, I become
my
you.
anxiety. Yes. And I become you. Now that's weird.
That is weird. Is that a
Weird.
sibling thing?
Maybe. Okay. No, that could be a poll. That could be a study. We get some grant money. Who wants to give us some
If
grant
anybody's
money?
out there and you got a sibling, please both of you go take the test and see if there's anything like that for you, where your healthy or stress state is the same as your sibling's main number.
Yeah, we will link to
I'm
the
super intrigued.
psychology junkie test and to the one where you can do your tri-type. I will tell you, it costs $25 to do the tri-type test. But for the peace of mind it finally gave me after literally agonizing at least a year, if not a little longer, on what my type was, I sure am glad I spent it. When did we take that? So at work we have a learning and development department. That's the word. Thanks, Martha. We have a learning and development department, and they do a lot of different trainings. And one of them is on the Enneagram, because when you know what yours is and when your team members know what theirs are, it can really help when you're trying to communicate not only as like a leader to teammates, but teammates in between each other. It can help resolve conflict. It can help with all kinds of stuff. It actually helped me understand why Brandon sometimes gets irritated at me when I come home and don't say a word to him because I've spent all my energy at work. But, so we all had the opportunity to take the test and learn our types and explore what that meant. They even had these really fun bingo boards, and it had like little statements on them, kind of like the questions that are in this book, but it was like,
What number is this person?
More. Yeah. There was like, it would be like, you might be a 5 if, you might be a 1 if, and then it was like a 5 by 5, and then there was like, I think a free space or something, like a real bingo board. And it's like the more things you cross off, but it also had like, it wasn't just like these type of questions. It would have silly things on there like, I don't believe aliens exist or whatever. So that's what actually made me think I might be more 5 than 3 with some of those questions. But in here, the 3 questions definitely resonate more than the 5 questions. But I'm both, so. In the tri-type.
You know?
Yeah. But all of that to say, they did a in-house podcast as well where they talked about, like, each week they would cover a different type. So we've gone through that.
Show them this book.
Yes. So this is The Road Back to You. Is there another?
Yeah, so there's The Road Between Us,
Okay.
which is about, like, relationships.
Yes.
I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
But yeah, this one's pretty good. Like the guy has very humorous stories, first of all. Do you remember the streaking story?
No.
That was great. But then it goes through each of the types, and he even makes a joke. Like, he puts the 8 first, and he's like, if you don't understand why I talked about 8 before the rest of the numbers, because 8's one of the last numbers, then you need to go back to this page where I talk about 8s, and then you'll understand. Because they're all about, like, power and being in control, and not always in a negative way. No. Just like Slytherins don't have to be negative. Ooh, we should talk about Harry Potter houses. And then, so, like, this has, like, questions, or not questions, but statements. So, like, if you identify with a bunch of the statements, you might be that type. Mm-hmm. And then what I really liked is at the end of each one, Oh, he also talks about how being a female 8 is different from being a male 8, and boy, is that on par. They'll have like a little checklist of things you can do to work on yourself. And I even wrote down like things from each of my tri-type where I was like, yeah, I could see that I need to do this and that and whatever.
Yeah. And there's another piece of it too. Something you should know going into it is there is a religious spin to it.
Oh yeah.
It came from a religious place. It was, I guess, invented or discovered by a religious group and used in that way. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yes.
You don't have to be a super religious person to get benefit from knowing your type and studying about it. It's not that ingrained into the descriptions and stuff.
That's a good point to make, though, because I had no idea that there was a religious background until I opened this book and he started talking about it.
Yes. And then they even have a lot of like Christian bookstores will have devotional books based on your type to help you grow your spiritual life based on your personality type, which is cool if you're into that stuff. So all good things to know, but just know that any book you buy about the Enneagram might have a piece of religion in it. So
yeah.
And trigger warning and all of that.
I know that this guy goes over how it relates to Christianity, but I think he also references that it has, there's history of it showing. Yes. Here we go. Mystical. That's the word I wanted. Okay. So not only does he relate it back to Christianity, but he says that some say that elements of the Enneagram also appear in other world religions, including Sufism, the mystical tradition within Islam, and Judaism, which, I mean, that would make sense if it's something that made its way to Christianity, that it might have Judaic roots.
Yeah.
But, like, it's got other roots as well in other world religions. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one specific religion if you ascribe to a different one, but it does have spiritual roots.
Yes.
But it is definitely useful as a psychological thing on its own. Like, I had zero idea.
Yeah, I have all of my private practice clients take the Enneagram because it can be so eye-opening to read those things about yourself, even though you already know them. But to go, oh yeah, yep, I do that, like, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you can take that knowledge and just grow so much with it. Like you said, like the statements, identifying with those, or doing the suggestions for self-improvement when you know kind of where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses lie. And it's just a great way to kickstart therapy.
I prefer to just understand these things and not try to improve on myself.
Okay, 5.
It was funny because we were all standing in the kitchen before we started this, and Brandon was getting ready to go to work. And I had read this thing that says, just because a 3 doesn't tell you that they love you doesn't mean that they don't. And I said that to him, and Nikki's like, but you're supposed to change that.
It's just because you know that's true doesn't mean it's an excuse for you to continue doing it.
Exactly.
You know that about yourself, so you work on improving that.
Is there one statement that stood out to you that was like, undeniably, this is the type that I am?
I'd have to reread it to see, but okay, all right. There were definitely many times where I said, yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are multiple, and mine I don't think was, maybe it was.
I feel like almost every sentence of mine was like, I'm tearing up. This is so 100% me.
You're such a heart person. I just thought it was really funny, and I texted Nikki about this earlier when I was reading through the 3s. And it brought up 3s being a world champion multitasker. And these days, it's a very common thing to say that, well, we're not actually capable of multitasking. And if you are multitasking, you're letting something else slip. And I have always taken great issue with that statement. And so when it said, I am a world champion multitasker, I was like, yes, it can be done.
The validation.
If I'm not doing multiple things at one time, I quite literally get bored. Did you find it?
Type 6, the loyalist, Stephen King. Does that mean he's a 6? Am I the same personality type as Stephen King? I will not even touch his books.
And you know what that means. You have to.
Well, okay, so I read one for a book club, and it was the one about the hotel? The very famous one. There's a movie.
The Shining?
Yes. Okay. So we're reading that, and I kid you not, I told my friends this. I am in such a bad mood when I'm reading this book. And when I'm done reading this book, like when I take a break, I am dark and gloomy and just mean and nasty. Reading this horror, scary, frightening book makes me a dark person when I'm reading it.
You know what, though? I wonder if that is why he makes such good horror. If he's the anxious 6, maybe his brain is cooking up all of that stuff, and then he writes it down.
6's deadly sin is fear, and they suffer a deep-seated need to feel secure.
Which absolutely makes sense.
I'm afraid of everything.
And that absolutely makes sense with me in my unhealthy state. I am also, most of my fear stems around family. We're going to get dark. I don't want to die. I wouldn't say I wanted
to die?
Okay, so when I was younger,
mental health problems, but
when I was younger and I didn't have my own family to look out for and like no one else that I was attached to, and with my religious background of if I die, I'm going to heaven. Oh boy. I was kind of like, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me, but I'm not like, I wasn't also like necessarily like seeking it out. Mm-hmm. Now that I have a family, it's like, I absolutely do not want to. I want to be around to see everything happen. And I also don't want anything to happen to them. So like when Lucas was younger and he would have an asthma attack and I would ask him if he could breathe and he would say no, I would flip out. And I was the one driving to the hospital when that happened. So don't flip out when you're the driver. But it's one of those things where like, fear has come more into play. What'd you find?
Everything about myself. Sister Mary Elizabeth wasn't the only person in my life pondering those questions. Growing up, my siblings and I had a nanny who appeared to suffer from pre-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, no.
She wore herself out with worry about what would happen to us. Don't run with scissors, you'll stab your sister. Don't eat food from a can with dents, you'll die of salmonella. You'll get electrocuted if you take a shower in a thunderstorm. I can't tell you how many times... I can't tell you how many times I say stuff like that to Ari.
I do.
She hits herself in the face and she's being silly. I say, don't do that. What if your nail scratched your eye and scratched your cornea and you couldn't see?
When the kids are at
I don't say it exactly like that. She's 6 and I'm not trying to terrify her, but
no,
I do say you could scratch your eye and hurt yourself. You might not be able to see right. You know, one silly little move could change something about you forever.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids were at the table eating.
My kid's going to be so terrified.
And they were laughing really hard with food in their mouths. And I said, don't do that. You could inhale and choke. And that actually, he didn't like choke. But one kid inhaled and was like, and I was like, see? And then they were like, and they took dinner very seriously that night.
Yes. Ari does usually listen very well and go, oh, I didn't know that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep telling her that's why when we tell you don't know, stop right away, because we might not have time to fully explain what we know about what could happen from that. But that's why, because we know these things and you don't know yet. And that's what's so scary about raising children.
See, I'm telling you, like if it wasn't for the kids, I don't think I would have as much fear in my life. But it is all about the kids, whether it's fear for myself or fear for the kids. It is because I want to be around for the kids.
I had the fear long before the child. Fear about everything. Fear about driving. Fear about merging onto the road.
I do have big
I can't go somewhere I've never been without looking it up on Google Maps and examining the parking and how that's going to work and figuring out. And then if my route gets changed somehow, like the map pops up and says, oh, there's a detour. Panic.
Yes.
Pure panic. It's not healthy. Famous 6s. Ellen DeGeneres. I'll take that. John Stewart, Frodo Baggins.
Oh, that's not fair.
I'm not a Lord of the Rings gal, so I don't know much about Frodo Baggins, but I'm gonna guess that's cool.
I don't know if that's accurate though.
John Irving. I'm not afraid, but I'm very nervous. 6s have a strong need for security and consistency. They appreciate order, plans, and rules. I tell people all the time at work, I am a checklisty kind of gal. If you have a task that needs to go down and check off every little skill and you know ahead of time what those are and it's pre-planned, Word document. Okay.
Yeah. So here it is. I found it. So I love setting, as a 3, I love setting and accomplishing measurable goals, which relates to the list making that a 1 will make. They'll make a list and check it off, which is totally me.
Making a list, Checking.
And another,
Now we know what Enneagram Santa is.
Yeah. Santa's the one. If you're not good, you go on the naughty list, black and white.
I'm a very black and white thinker sometimes.
That's the thing. I was like, if I was a child doing this, I think I would test as a 1. A young child.
Yeah.
But I think that quickly evolved into a 3 because I was always very academic minded. I wanted to look like the good, perfect model kid, but I also wanted everybody to be like, oh, yay, look how perfect you are.
Mom, if you're listening, this is all your fault. Kids who are 6s learn to worry early. They're Velcro for messages like, don't swim for 30 minutes after you eat or you'll get a cramp and drown. Never talk to strangers. I have this vivid memory, which is the dumbest thing to hold on to in your brain. There's so much I'd love to hold on to. And I have this memory of us going to a silly video store. It wasn't Blockbuster, but it was something similar.
Was it the one in New Melly?
In Winsville.
Oh, okay.
The one in Winsville, it used to be right where Cynthia's hair place was. You know?
Yes.
It's now a grocery store, I think, or something. But anyway,
what was that name?
It was a video store. And there was some time that she ran in to drop off some videos. And we were left in the minivan as kids. And she said, you know, don't open the doors for strangers. If you see people,
because
lock
in the 90s,
doors.
you could do that.
She's like, if you see people coming, just lock the doors. You know, don't talk to anybody. I'll be 5 minutes. And she could see us from the window the whole time. But we're in the van, and this group of teenagers comes up. They've been like skating in the parking lot, basically. And they start to roll up towards the car. And I lunged to the front and hit the lock button. And they heard it. They heard the locks go. And they were like, ooh, we're going to come get you.
Was I in the car?
I was terrified. I don't remember. I think it was just me and Carissa, but I could be wrong. I was terrified. And I will admit, they were of a different race than mine, and I did not have much exposure to that. And there was a cultural piece, a racism piece playing into that.
Yeah, and
for a long time,
that there was on their end too, because they thought, oh, she only did that because of our race.
Yeah. And it was terrifying for me, and I felt like a racist for a very long time thinking back on that memory. But that was my anxiety, Velcroing that message from my mom and just really blowing it way out of proportion.
I was going to say, too, we might joke about that, but on a serious note, I do think genetics plays a lot into it because
it does.
My daughter has had the same attitude since she was 6 months old. I always said
from her, Mama.
I always said she is 6 going on 16, and the closer she gets to 16, the more true it becomes. Ooh. Eliana, if you're watching this 10 years later when you're old enough for YouTube, I love you.
It's like they say, nobody comes out unscathed. You get trauma somewhere. Minor trauma, major trauma. We all experience it in various ways. No parent is unblameable.
But yeah. Man.
But yeah.
I love the Enneagram though. Like, out of all the personality tests, I do feel like it's one that really not only tells you why you are the way that you are potentially, how to improve upon it, and how to recognize when you're in a healthy versus unhealthy state. Yeah. But it can help you understand the people around you. And they put a big focus on that. Not everyone sees the world through the same lens that you do. Mm-hmm. So let's all approach this with that understanding and hopefully improve communication.
Yeah. Understanding is the key to kindness, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Kill them with kindness.
Have courage and be kind, as
That's
Cinderella
right.
says.
That's right. See, it is the Cinderella archetype.
It really is.
Well, last time we talked a little bit about fun things that our kids say, and then we both forgot to include a couple of things. So we're going to extend that.
Yeah, as per usual, on the spot. I am not good with these things. And
I know. I should have these to you ahead of time.
Well, you did this one a little bit, and I just didn't stop and think about it. But later, I was like, oh, yeah.
And that is another trick that we've picked up at work. So we do small groups at work where we explore things like the Enneagram. But like people who lead a small group get to pick, like, what's the topic going to be? Are we going to read a book? Are we going to watch movies? Are we going to connect over a certain hobby? Whatever.
Yeah.
And in the materials that they give you as a leader before it starts, it's like you might want to give someone a heads up that they have to answer a certain question. And obviously in a small group format, it might be, oh, you get an email a little bit ahead of time to think about it. Or someone might say, hey, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask you this, and then like talk and then go back to that person. So I could have given you that heads up.
All right. I'll take the grace.
But yeah, we're going to add in a couple of things that came to our minds afterwards. Yeah. So do you want to go first?
Cute things our kids said. Mm-hmm. So when Ari was like 3 to 4, she would say, what the heck? All the time. But it wasn't what the heck, it was what the heck. What the heck?
What the heck?
And it was so cute. I've already forgotten the other thing in the kitchen again.
It was what she calls this.
So when Amanda and I get together, we tell the kids, you're going to get to play while we're podcasting. But Ariana has picked it up as broadcasting, not podcasting. So she'll say, are you and Aunt Amanda going to broadcast today? Can Ellie and I play while you and Aunt Amanda broadcast? And every time I say, it's podcast.
She's not entirely wrong, though.
It is broadcasting in a way.
I think
it's so cute.
I think it's really funny when we are both in our separate houses and they conspire to come up at the same time and be like, oh, you should go over to Amanda's house so you can do a broadcast. Or, hey, Mom, are you going to have Nikki and Ari over soon so we can do a podcast?
But yeah, they'll call each other on Messenger and be playing Roblox over their iPads together. And they'll come up with this plan to each come to us separately and ask if we're going to broadcast today.
You know, gang up on us.
Hey, they're home. We should go over and we could do a broadcast.
I always push it off on you. I'm always like, well, I guess it depends on if Nikki's available.
I mean, I am the one who has to travel if we do it together.
Yeah.
And I'm a big ninny about, that's another one of my anxieties is traveling in any sort of weather.
That one's fair though. Like, I think anybody.
If the roads are wet, I'm like, I'm going to hydroplane. If they're frozen, I'm like, I won't know how to spin my wheel if I'm spinning out and I'll kill us. So, you know, if the weather isn't dry and sunny, I'm probably not coming over.
I used to drive in heavy rain and I can't do that because I can't see the lines on the road.
I have that vision thing now where the lights all like,
oh, an astigmatism?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that.
So all the lights like get the little crisscross and they blur out. And
you should see an eye doctor.
I should. So at night, I don't really like driving as much either, but
yeah. Well,
unless I'm really familiar with the road.
That's true.
Like when I go to pick up and drop off Ari from her dad's, I do that in the evening.
I think a lot,
but it's a straight shot. Like
I think a lot of my issue is if when it's really coming down and there's a lot of lights and the water is being reflective, the roads aren't painted very well, and that's why I can't see. I think if we were able to make it cost effective, and I think they're a little fragile or whatever, but those like light up roads that they've been experimenting with, I think that would solve my problem.
That'd be cool.
But I definitely don't like heavy rain anymore just because I think I'm going to stray into another lane and hit somebody. But Silas's thing that I forgot about, over the last few months, he started saying, what the, and then nothing else.
What the?
He would just trail off. And I try to explain to him, you can't say that. But I don't want to
say that.
explain.
They're trailing off to leave off
exactly.
bad words.
And I did tell him that. I was like, usually what they're inferring is that there is a bad word coming next. And he would be like, okay. But then he would keep doing it. So Brandon's mom actually got him to start saying, what in the world instead.
That's cute.
Yes. And I was like, okay, we can do that. What in the world was great. And then one day he comes home, and I don't know if it was things he heard on the bus or if this just happened to be like an internet thing he picked up or whatever. He goes, I understand why you don't want me to say what the anymore. He goes, I know the word that it is. And I'm like, oh, cool. And that was the end of that for a while. He just didn't say what the. He would always say what in the world. There was no other discussion about it. Like maybe a week or two ago, he goes, you know that word that, ends what in the, he goes, I just noticed it rhymes with fire truck. And I'm like, let's stop finding ways to rhyme that word. And I told that story to a relative who's a teacher, And she goes, I had the same problem. She goes, we were going around, she's a kindergarten teacher, so this is even better. We were going around in a circle trying to rhyme words, and of course it was a UCK word, and kids were saying things like duck, and then the next kid goes, and she goes, and the principal was in the room.
Oh, even better.
She goes, yeah, that does rhyme, and then moves on to the next kid, and later the principal was like, you handled that really well, and she's like, I didn't know what else to do, because you can't, like, get on to the
panic,
kid, right? She's like, I was just like, yes, let's move on.
Yeah.
She's like, that might be one of the only words that kid knows that rhymes, you know?
Oh, God. I was just explaining to Ari for the millionth time the other day. I think it was yesterday. She was on the tablet with Ellie, and they were playing Roblox, and I just heard from my office, Wakanda forever, Wakanda forever, Wakanda forever, like over and over and over.
Has she seen Black Panther?
Not that I know of. But she knows who Black Panther is as far as being a Marvel superhero and part of the Disney universe, right? So I went into her room and I said, what are you doing? She's like, oh, there was something where some kid on a YouTube video was trying to hype himself up to jump into a cold pool. And he did that where he crossed his wrists across his chest like they do in Black Panther. And he said, Wakanda forever, Wakanda. And was like beating himself in the chest to like hype himself up. And I said, do you know what that means? And she said, no. And I said, first of all, I once again encourage you to stop repeating things when you don't know what they mean. Because you don't know what you're saying. And it could be something bad that you don't really mean to say. So maybe ask mommy or daddy before you start repeating it. She's like, okay. I said, in this case, it's not bad. Wakanda is just the name of the planet, country, whatever, that Black Panther lives in.
Yeah.
Is it country?
Yeah.
Because I thought they're on another,
I'm pretty
like,
sure,
in outer space, no?
I'm pretty sure
I don't know.
Wakanda is on Earth.
I love
Because
Disney,
he's part of
but
the
Marvel is a way
Avengers.
for me. He is part of the Avengers, yeah.
But I mean,
So-
that doesn't mean anything because Captain Marvel is.
Well,
an
it's like
alien.
it's a hidden city too. Like you have to have
Yes.
the right.
Yes, officially, the Kingdom of Wakanda is a fictional country appearing in American comic books, depicted as being in East Africa. So it is
Okay.
on Earth.
Okay. So it's like that's the name of where he's from. You know, the city that he rules, and this is like his symbol when you cross your arms in front of your chest. And so when they say Wakanda forever, they're talking about protecting their country, their city, their town, their people. And it is like a battle cry. So you used it appropriately, actually, but you should know what you're saying before you say it.
Right. I could easily get you into trouble.
Well, then she said something the other day, and I can't remember what it was, something like YouTube ice roll or something like that. And I was like, what does that mean? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, again, I encourage you not to repeat things. You don't know what they mean. And she said, well, I just made it up. I said, oh, well, okay, but it could mean something and you don't know.
She doesn't want to do the polar plunge. She's going to do an ice roll.
She's going to do an ice roll on YouTube.
Is that a combination between, maybe it's when you eye roll outside in the
Is
snow.
it like sushi? Philly roll?
Yeah, there
California roll? Ice roll?
We should do a working mom's wine where we visit a sushi place.
Plum wine is so good.
Okay, I am going to whine about something.
Uh-oh.
It's not terrible. Well, no, I am going to whine about something that turns into something more terrible. I'm going to whine about two things.
Okay.
Because I was going to whine about. So, there was a parents' night out at my church.
Yes.
And this is the first time, to my knowledge, that they've done this. But we've been at this church for a few years now. And initially, Brandon was working during the parents' night out. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to sign the kids up anyway because they will have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can, like, run over to Target or something. But by the time that the parent night rolled around, he did not have to work during that time to meet hours. He could basically, it started at 4:30. He could end work at 5 and meet me somewhere. So we worked out this plan where he was going to stop working at 5 and we were going to meet up somewhere and then do the Christmas lights afterwards.
Okay.
So we discussed a couple different options and ended up deciding on sushi. And I am not going to name the restaurant.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The food is great, but don't eat in the restaurant. But So I get there first.
Okay.
I knew I was going to arrive there before Brandon. And so I was like, okay, should we order like our usual things? I will put the order in. When you get there, you can eat, because we knew we'd be kind of tight on time for like when the church event ended.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So I get there, and they had different flavors of sake.
Okay.
And one of them was Fuji apple.
Ooh.
And I think that's the one they ended up being out of.
Aww.
Yeah.
Sounds yummy.
I know. I still would really like to try it. And then I ended up having like a plum wine one, basically. So that's what got me started on that. So it was still delicious. And one of the few times I've had cold sake, because obviously when you're flavoring it like that, it's going to be chilled like a white wine.
Yeah.
But so that was still really good, but I'd like to try the Fuji apple one.
Yeah.
So, but
what was bad?
it smelled very not great in that restaurant the entire time we were there. And I was like,
sewage problem?
It smells like sewage. And if you have ever noticed this at the dance studio we go to, that, not recently, but like a year ago, well, maybe Ari wasn't going there yet. It was also smelling like sewage for a while, and they knew it. And they would say to us, feel free to complain to the city of O'Fallon that this building smells like sewage. There is an issue. We're trying to get it resolved.
Yeah.
We need support, basically.
I started to say, I wonder if it's like the town I live in has really old pipes and things.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of problems all the time with backups,
Yeah.
overflows, please complain, please make the city replace the pipes, all that kind of stuff.
And I really think and hope that that was the entirety of the issue. But I did use their bathroom before going, and while I still think it's just a sewage issue in general, the bathroom itself was not in super great shape. And there, again, may not have been a lot they could do about it.
Yeah.
But that was just like, we've always done.
Well, a smell is a smell. You can still do cleanliness and keep things stocked and all of that.
But kind of like when I was in the bathroom, I was like, this looks old.
It's probably more of like a short-staffed, not updated.
Right. That's the thing. I feel like they just haven't renovated it.
Yeah.
Basically. And I feel like it is still just an actual sewage issue. But it was one of those things where it's like, this was the first and probably last time that I will eat inside of the restaurant, even though I am going to continue to order from the restaurant.
Yeah. The food is still good. And yeah.
This particular sushi place,
I was worried you were going to give a food poisoning story. And I was like, no.
And actually, this is the one place where, or maybe,
because then my anxiety will not allow me to eat sushi again.
I can't remember if it's this place or Sakura in Wentzville. One of them has the best tasting rice that I have ever had.
Really?
And I feel like it's because they put a little bit of lemon in it. I can't remember which one it is.
But rice on the side or within the roll?
No, within the roll, but it's just you can tell the difference.
I eat from that place all the time. I've never noticed, but
yeah.
Probably because I'm not comparing it to anything.
Well, did you ever eat from Sushi AI or
Sushi AI?
Whatever?
Mm-hmm. I have, but it's been pretty few and far between.
Okay.
So I don't know that I would build up a familiarity.
I was just trying to think
differences.
Because you've had that. You've had Oishi. Or I think
Oishi is my jam.
It's my
favorite place.
I think I found out that that means delicious.
I think so, yeah. And it is.
It is.
And if you love hibachi, one location does just sushi, and the other location has sushi and hibachi. So
nice.
Yeah.
My thing is, if I go to hibachi, I'm just eating the hibachi and I don't eat the sushi.
See, I usually do the opposite. I'll go to a place because everybody wants hibachi, and I'm not into the hibachi, so I'm like, I'll just order a couple sushi rolls.
Okay. Let's relate this back to the Enneagram real quick.
Throwing shrimp at my face.
Yes.
Because I'm nervous and anxious. Yes. Don't do it. Don't throw it at me.
As much as I feel like I really identify with being a 3 and being a performer, I am also the extremely anxious introvert where I'm like, I don't want you flipping that shrimp at my face because if I don't catch it and I fail, I will look like an idiot.
Well, I mean, you could be an introverted 3, right?
Maybe.
But isn't only extroverted?
I mean, it didn't say that, but does it make sense to always be seeking attention and be the center of attention and also be an introvert? Because I am 100% an introvert.
So someone explained this to me once, who is what she refers to as an extroverted introvert. which is someone, she thrives in these situations. She can talk to anybody, but she doesn't like it. So like, she's really good in a group. She can introduce people. She can connect with the new person. She can have all the conversations, but she hates small talk, and she regenerates her energy at home by herself doing her things.
Okay, that's what I am.
So the introverted person isn't someone who only wants to talk to themselves and be like the hermit crab necessarily. It's someone who re-energizes, gets their energy back from those moments of being alone.
Yeah.
And so it's like being with people isn't hard for them, but it depletes their energy, whereas being by themselves regenerates their energy.
You know what's really funny?
So it's another way to look at it.
Obviously, when I've had some wine, I get really talkative.
It's a social lubricant for a reason.
Absolutely.
Wine is a happy tipsy, a happy drunk.
Yeah. I feel like I get extroverted at work in my current job. In my previous jobs, I would absolutely be the person that just put their heads down and did the work that they needed to do.
I would never have imagined that.
At work?
Yeah.
Which one?
Direction?
Oh, yeah. No, I would show up. I would do my thing. I would talk to the girls around me if, like, they were engaging me in conversation. And it wasn't that I disliked them. It was just that I'm a shy, awkward introvert, and I didn't know what to say. And, like, that absolutely happens where I'm at now. Like,
that's crazy.
I think what really did it for me at my job now is there was a night I was sitting around with 2 other people and talking, and I feel like I'm the person that is very introverted. I have few friends, and I often place it on me and my own social awkwardness. And we were all 3 sitting around and talking late at night. It was one of those nights where we were all 3 staying until 10. And the other girl was like, sometimes I just think that a lot of my relationships are like not real, or maybe I think I'm friends with people and I'm not. And I'm just really happy that like the 3 of us are friends. And I'm like, I have felt this feeling for my entire life, and I'm so glad someone else has vocalized it, and it is not just me.
I have a very related story to tell. So my first job in behavioral health was at a hospital. It was a local one that had multiple locations, but all of the behavioral health admissions were done from one office. So we coordinated who and which ER went into what bed and all that kind of stuff. And we sent people to the ERs to evaluate people to see if they needed to be admitted, that kind of stuff.
So you guys would all travel from that central location to the ERs?
Well, there's 2 roles. The clinician stays in the office and does the office-y stuff. Yeah. The assessors go to the emergency rooms and assess as needed. So if you were an assessor, you traveled a lot between all 7 hospitals.
Would you say, without giving away the hospital, potentially up to 30 to 60 miles to do that?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because there's one in the city, and then there's one out kind of where I live now. So
and there's a couple where I gave birth.
Of course, yes. Of course, there were really more like 2 to 3 main ones, and then the other ones were kind of like very randomly you would get an assessment out there. So, but we had people on different shifts. So like if someone came on and they lived over here and there was someone in that ER, we'd kind of wait for them to start their shift and let them start close to home, that kind of stuff. But the point of all of this was to say it's where I made my first like career-driven work group of friends. And I was very young in my career. Like I was fresh out of college and still doing my master's degree, which was another beautiful thing about this role is you could have just a bachelor's in psychology and work in the office. And they did tuition reimbursement for some of your master's degree, although it really was nowhere near enough because I'm still in major debt. But I digress. I made this group of friends, and a bunch of the women in that office kind of made a group together. And we started meeting outside of work, and we called it the Comfort Club because our matriarch of the group, basically, that name was connected to her, Comfort. And so we kind of like named it about her, right? Yeah. We would meet like every other month or so. We'd take turns at each person's house and bring food, and we would, get out work stress about the situation from the job we were all in, but we would also craft and teach each other things. And it was great mentorship for some of us. Like there was kind of an older set of the ladies and a younger set. And so we were able to really experienced a lot of wonderful mentorship from people who had been in the business for a long time, you know, and lots of opportunities came up from that and beautiful things. But there was one time I had my BFF, my soulmate best friend, was in this group, and we met at this job. And we would get together with these ladies. And there was one time where I don't remember if it was a time that I needed a job, like I had been laid off or something, or there was something going on. And my BFF was like, why don't you reach out to so-and-so from our group? And I was like, I don't know if we're that close. Like, can I reach out and ask for that kind of thing? Like, are we that good of friends? I said, I feel like we're more like acquaintances. And like, so I have my acquaintances and like my really super close BFFs know everything about my life.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you serious? And come to find out, like, what I was labeling as an acquaintance was like a close friendship for many years.
Yeah.
And for some reason, my brain could not connect that somebody would value me and that friendship at that level. I was like, we're just, you know, surface level. And she's like, you've been to her home. She's been to yours. You know her kids. She knows yours. Like, there's no surface about this. What are you talking about? Like, they know everything about you and you know everything about them and you guys share and you hang out and you know, and I was like, I don't know. Like, my brain is like stuck in this.
Yeah.
Like, because they're not my bestest friend forever that knows every of my deepest, darkest secrets.
We didn't exchange necklaces.
We're just acquaintances. Like, I'm really like coming to terms with the social stupidity of that, if I could say it that way. Like, no.
Well,
and of course, I reached out to this person after that, and they were like immediately responsive and helpful. I'm like, oh my God, yes, let me send you this, let me send you that, let me recommend you for that, let me talk to this person about you. And like, you know, I don't know where the barrier is for that. And I used to think it was because we were homeschooled. I don't think that's the truth anymore.
I think
because I've met so many people that are the same.
A form of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Everyone focuses on how imposter syndrome works within the workplace.
Yeah, with your career.
I think it works within your social circle very, very much.
And I don't know if this is just because it's talked about more now or not, but it seems like especially for moms, for women.
Yeah.
Like, once you become a mom, finding friends is like impossible. And you're like, where did I used to meet my friends?
Yeah.
At work, at church, at school. Okay, well, I don't go to school anymore. Not everybody goes to church. Some people do.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes it seems like church has become, for a lot of people, a judgment zone. And so they don't make very deep, close personal friendships there anymore.
Yeah.
But that might just be my outside perspective because I don't attend church anymore and I'm a little jaded about it.
It can absolutely depend on the church you are in.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, that would be very true. I could see that.
Yeah.
True. But I see on the mom groups all the time on Facebook, like,
I was about to say that.
I have trouble making friends. Where do you make friends? Where do you meet people? This
or
is
they'll
my
put a
age.
call out.
This is the age of my children. This is kind of the area I live in.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to get together and meet me because I'm dying of loneliness and isolation? Like,
I'm going to date myself.
Uh-oh.
There used to be a place on Craigslist for looking for friendships. And
interesting.
Yeah. So I don't even know if Craigslist still exists or if
it does. I think it's pretty nefarious.
I like the
days.
Facebook idea better because even if someone has their profile set to private, you can stalk them to an extent.
That is true. There's also now a dating app called Bumble, but they have a version of it for friendships. So you can choose the just friendship side, and I've actually had a girlfriend who met a couple people that way, and like you still create profiles and everything and see pictures, and you can find people that have like similar interests.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be romantic with them. You just want a friend.
Right.
Hey, who wants to go see musicals at the Fox all the time? Like, you know, who wants to go for hikes? Who wants to kayak or whatever active people do? I'm not one. But I have thought about downloading that app a couple times because, like, I have some very solid friends, but they all live far away from me. And even the one who is closest to me, she works at an office that's only like 45 minutes from me, but it's still like next to impossible to get together between my child and that at work,
Schedules.
her work, and she's got dogs that she has to like run home and like walk and stuff after work. So it's like all the barriers are there. It's hard. Yeah. And we used to do the video app messaging thing, but people get busy. They have lives, they have children, they have schedules, and my videos are always long, and I'm sure a little whiny. So like, you know, maybe people go, oh, I don't have time for a 10-minute video. You know, times. People have lives, and you're not there in person, like doing the activities with them. It becomes different. It just does. Yeah. So I thought before about doing that, trying to find a local friend, but I've had some issues finding local friends in recent years where I do this thing where it's like the description of the sixes where like you have it's a no judgment zone. You accept everybody. It's unconditional, all of that. And I just give that to anybody and everybody. Yes. And then my friends are like,
it was just your dating life, and now I absolutely see it in your friendships as well.
I've had a succession of 3 women friends where the same thing has happened. And it's like, this big personality comes into my world. Yes. They recognize my quietness, my malleableness, whatever it is, and they take advantage of it. Yeah. For sure. They run me over. And my life becomes their life. I do what they want to do. I watch what they want to watch, just like when I'm dating. And it's the same.
You know what we need to do?
You need to. Okay, so I got on dating apps again recently.
This was so much fun too. I loved it.
And I gave my phone to Amanda and Brandon at Thanksgiving, and they went through all the profiles and said, "Oh, this is a good one," and would hand it to me to yay or nay it. But they would like pre-screen them.
I'm pretty sure we went through like 30 guys, and we're just like, nope,
nope. I then deleted the app afterwards because
I think Brandon too was like more willing to give guys a chance than I was. He's like, oh, that could be. And I'm like, no, look at those eyeballs. Absolutely not.
But we should do that for your friends too. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
I'll download Bumble for friendships. We'll have a whole episode where you scan through and judge people for me.
And see, if we
won't say their names or show their pictures or anything.
And if we were doing it for friendships, that would work for both of us. Because obviously I can't get on a dating app.
Brandon? No, I'm joking.
Well, it's not, see, that's the thing. It's not a dating app.
Right.
It's an app for connections. And you can choose if it's friendship or dating or whatever. So you could be on that app without being accused of like trying to have an affair.
Yeah. That could be fun. That could be so much fun. And maybe without showing the person, we can just be like, this is why I say no, or I say yes.
And read like little snippets, little lines from their profile.
And then you can Google it. And, no, I'm joking. I think that would be a really hilarious.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. All right. Well, anything else you want to add about the Enneagram or funny children or
Enneagram? I love it. I encourage you to go and take the test.
Yeah.
Even if you just take the test and you read the brief description, you're like, okay, cool, and you move on. Yeah. You never know when it will come back.
Yeah.
Into your knowledge realm.
Yeah.
And even some jobs now will ask you in the interview process, like, have you taken personality tests? What is your, numbers or whatever? So it's cool to have that information. And it's a free test, but I will say it does take time. There are many, many questions. Yes. And you need to sit down where you're not going to be bothered by other people, and you can really think honestly about how you should respond. That's the key part. Yeah. I've known people who have taken the test who are not honest with themselves. They answer the questions and how they want to be seen versus how they actually behave.
Maybe they're all threes.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure one was a 7, but you have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And it really helps if you think of actual situations in your life that relate to that question and how you responded. Mm-hmm. And get to know those core beliefs and motivations behind why you respond the way you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think a lot of my confusion initially was how I thought I was, but then you start to look at the motivations, and in that book, especially when they have the opening statements, I was I see why I'm more of a 3 than a 5, for instance. But we'll definitely link to the psychology junkie test. We will link to the tri-type test in case you want to pay for that one. It is very interesting, and it makes you feel very validated if you're a little confused in the beginning.
And the tri-type test is a little weird. Sometimes there's questions and you're like, what?
Yes,
but
and some of the cards, I don't know if this happened for you. There's cards with a bunch of different words and phrases and images.
Yeah.
And they encourage you, they're like, look at everything, because I am absolutely the person that will look at like two things and be like, yo! Yeah. But they're like, look at everything on there, and then they'll have you rank things, and some of the ones that you rank, you're like, I'm not entirely sure about this, but
you have to trust your gut.
You have to trust your gut, and that's my problem. I'm the person that like changes their answer on a test all the time. But where was I going with this? The visual things,
tri-types.
the tri-types. Oh, there were some screens where it just had one card. Did that happen with you?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I took it.
They warned you that there could be two cards that look exactly the same, and
it makes sense though, because the questions start to narrow down.
Yeah.
So if there's
so
no
maybe
options,
they had just narrowed me down at that point. But we'll link to both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Sign up for the book club if you haven't yet.
Yeah. We'll do some Enneagram stuff in the book club.
Yeah, we could absolutely do some Enneagram stuff. There's a lot. I think we could very easily fill like a year's worth of book club without even trying.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's on the Patreon. But if you go to our website, workingmomswine.com, it links to the Patreon. You'll see the book club option. The cost of that covers the cost of the book and our time to invest in the book club itself. So definitely check that out. We've got an Instagram, a TikTok, the website. All
YouTube,
of it is under Working Moms Wine. YouTube and Spotify. Yeah. So.
Go to each one. Subscribe.
All
like,
of them.
Comment on everything. Help us.
Please. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and I want to be able to justify continuing to buy a bottle of wine every week.
I mean, I might do that anyway, so it's okay.
I mean, that's true. We drink wine anyway. This just gives us something to do while we're
I'll tell you, I did the Walmart grocery pickup today, and when I was putting stuff in my cart, I put probably like 4 bottles of the 19 Crimes wines in there.
It's for the
and I was
show!
Like, it's for the podcast. And I was like, Nikki, do you really need all 4 at once? This is way over budget.
Yes.
I got rid of 2. Okay.
Listen, what if you get snowed in?
50-50.
I get to walk to the gas station and buy whatever you picked up. I think they only had one other 19 Crimes wine. I don't think it was the Martha one, though.
Okay.
I'll have to look.
It's probably the one that I got then. But anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah. So follow us, like, subscribe, comment, engage, share it.
That's right. That's right.
We want more mom friends.
Yes. And you're going to see us in a future episode wearing these exact same things because we're recording twice today. I thought about that, but we can do it in the next one.
Oh, okay.
We'll do it in the next one.
You have
Teaser.
You have to hang in and pay attention again.
And if you don't subscribe, you might miss it because you won't get the notification.
How dare you?
So you better subscribe.